I am so excited to finally build for Jaguars again, especially in Castaway Key Zoo. Today we are continuing our little pirate area and building a lovely little lush habitat for the beautiful, stunning Jaguar. Super excited to get these guys in this park, even though they aren't really island species. I thought it'd be fun to throw these guys in here nonetheless, just to fill out that South American pirate vibe. Without further ado, welcome everyone to Castaway Key Zoo. More like, I got the moves like Jaguar. Welcome, guys. As you can tell, I'm kind of losing it. So, welcome. Okay, let's get started. We have a castle kind of thing, right? Okay, so we have this little pirate base. The whole lore behind this is kind of like pirates kind of shipwrecked over here, and they made do with what they were shipwrecked with. So when they were marooned over here, they started like move the ship. They started to use the pieces from the ship to kind of, make their own little civilization. But oh no, it was taken over by animals. Who would have thought? In a zoo. Wow, crazy. Wow. So essentially what we're doing is kind of decorating around the original infrastructure that I created for this build. So my whole idea was to have this beautiful, beautiful vista up top where you could kind of look down into the monkey area and stuff. But I had this lovely idea to incorporate the Jaguars up on top and have them have free roaming kind of like realm up there, and it works even better because most of that ship is made of climbable pieces. So essentially they are able to climb all over that, not the monkeys but the Jaguars. So it's just very cool to see just how that was able to organically work itself out in the creation of this build. So you'll see me placing down these rocks kind of pretty much everywhere. So I'm utilizing all these faux rocks and these natural tropical rocks as a way to sort of make this natural kind of environment where nature is kind of taking back over this pirate fort that was kind of created. So you can see we are starting to integrate this area over here, which is a little bit of a landslide, but it turns itself into like a natural waterfall. So I found that very fun to work with, especially working with like these lovely tall glass pieces. I thought this was just a super awesome change of pace for the rest of the build, and it kind of brings in a lot more fun. Again, if you guys are looking for a much more realistic zoo series, check out either my Zoo Sarasota series or Hope Harbor Zoo for a little bit more of a diet realism kind of build. But this one in particular, I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be like just very weird, and getting a lot more weirder with it, just because we have these really awesome animals and we have this really awesome concept for a zoo that I couldn't naturally wrap it in with the realistic approach. I wanted to go balls to the wall with it. I wanted to go crazy with it. And you can definitely see that in a lot of the theming and a lot of the concepts. It essentially allows me to flex my creative muscles in a way that I can't really do in the confines of working in a very realistic zoo. I always think it's super important to have all these multiple projects going on, just as a way to help keep yourself entertained when you are playing this game. I know a lot of people oftentimes fall off the Planet Zoo bus. I do too. Like, it's something that just happens. Maybe sometimes you're stuck on a build. It's always important to keep multiple projects going at once. I know sometimes we're like, oh, we're never going to finish that. But that's the beauty of this game. I like the fact that I have some projects that I will never finish. I'm looking at Hope Harbor Zoo. That will never be finished. I'm looking at Zoo Sarasota at the Palms. That again will never be finished. These projects are constantly evolving and changing. What I do in like my DLC zoos, like the Castaway Keys is one, but Wildwood Zoo too. I have those with a set goal in mind to finish for a series, and it's just something I always do love to enjoy seeing, especially when I put those on the workshop and seeing all of you guys kind of pop in there, take some pictures, yada yada. It always just melts my heart. But there are some other projects where I'm like, this will never be finished. Some of them probably not even released to the public. but I think that's perfectly okay for anyone to do, especially you watching this right now. If you guys want to start a project in Planet Zoo, do it. Like, no one is stopping you. Your other projects may look at you with like kind of like a side eye, but it's always super important to do what you are feeling like building, and that's why some of my projects ebb and flow. That's why some weeks you might often get like an influx of Hope Harbor Zoo. Maybe I just want to get all that stuff housed. Maybe you'll see an influx of Castaway Keys where I'm feeling very saucy, feeling very inspired to work on some of that stuff. It's always awesome just to be able to work on those multiple projects. I always do find that super important. Now moving on in here, we are working on actually making this exhibit traversable. So we have the blueprint for the exhibit down, but making it actually be able to be used by the Jaguars is another story. So I'm using a whole wide variety of different pieces that are climbable. This will allow our animals to kind of navigate their areas with ease. Specifically the Jaguar, it's a little bit difficult trying to get these guys to kind of make use of their habitat, especially this part right here. I did this funky little climbing frame, which also functions as like scaffolding for, you know, theming sakes, but they actually aren't able to use that. So I gotta go back over there relatively soon and add another thick beam, because I don't think they're able to use the thin beams. What I'm also doing throughout here as well is adding these ferns. I've been doing this in Hope Harbor Zoo, but it also works for a very tropical palette as well. It's essentially the bird's nest ferns completely rotated 180 degrees next to each other and kind of put into these little clumps. This creates a nice, beautiful bush kind of looking thing where you're able to create this very gorgeous tropical palette, and piling that on with the rest of the tropical plants that we have in game results in a very beautiful, lush environment, which is just super awesome to see. So working on adding these Jaguars in here, I had a little bit of an issue where some of the doors weren't matching up, some of the trade center issues were popping up, but eventually I was able to settle that relatively soon. I think I do like a quick jump cut relatively soon, but before that, I just say screw it. I'll fix that later. I feel like building right now. So I add a whole bunch of different things in here. I add the bedding underneath that little the bow of the ship. I believe that's a bow. It's like, what is the front of the boat? The bow. Perfect. I always use SpongeBob as a way to remember that. Like, that one scene is engraved in my mind where it's like Mrs. Puff's quizzing SpongeBob just on like the parts of the boat, and I'm like, oh my god, Stephen Hillenburg taught me something. That's crazy. Now, we are adding the rest of the plants in here, especially these lovely plants that I kind of custom made for this park. Again, I really need to work on getting like a palette for you guys. In terms of like, you know, a blueprint at least. I'll probably do that relatively soon for the next build. I think that's going to be a super fun thing to work on, just so you guys can kind of build these things alongside here. I always think it's super awesome just to be able to work with pieces like that, especially when we're working with such a diverse palette like this build over here. But you can see I'm adding the rest of the pieces in here, all the bird's nest ferns, all of like those rhododendrons or whatever, I really don't know. Aquatic plants as well, always do a great job at creating tropical cover. Adding those elephant ears in there as well, and adding some bamboo for height. Now, one of my main reasons for building up here, I didn't want to add too many trees. Ideally, it would be a jungle up there, but I want to add something for height without going too crazy with the trees. So I add a few palm trees because they're nice and skinny, they don't really obstruct the sight lines, and I also do add those bamboo pieces because they feel like bushes, but they get the height of trees, which is kind of like the effect that I wanted. What I also add over here is just general decorations to that bow of the boat. So I add a whole bunch of ivy, I add a whole bunch of like those creepers that we've been doing on like the side of the building, and it looks super awesome. Look at that stuff, it just droops right over it. So I hope this cinematics are able to cover that pretty well. Haven't recorded them yet, so whatever you see over here happens in the future. Oh my god, isn't that crazy? Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you guys did enjoy the video, I would appreciate a like, possibly even a comment, and if you do consider subscribing, we are so close to 15,000 views, that'd be kind of sad. We're so close to 15,000 subscribers, and I could not be more ecstatic. Thank you guys so much for watching, thank you so much for your support, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video. Take care and have the most wonderful of wonderful days. Goodbye now.